Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Baker Ripley. I'm the president of the Department of African Public Affairs Committee. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We have an exciting panel talking about empowering African Black and diverse communities. Know your rights, naturalization, and citizenship. We have great panels today. Moderated we also have and also we have the Supreme Court. We're very honored to be here today to talk about very important stuff that are affecting our community right now. It's been quite an interesting week, and a lot of things have changed. But we are still here talking with our community to make sure that we are aware of the resources that are out there in the city of Winston and Harris County. And so we have folks talking today about resources for naturalization and citizenship, but also giving us an overview about your rights. Thank you so much. And I'm going to leave the word to our the best moderator. The media garage, the Male they are working to find from all of the state.
Thank you. Yes. Again, my name is Alief, and I'm happy to be your moderator, and we have a very intimate crowd. So, feel free to ask questions with the two of y'all up there and for anybody else as well. Also, people will trickle in. So, I know that this kind of gave a brief introduction of our panelists, but I just kind of wanted to highlight them once more so you know exactly where they're coming from. All right. So, we have experts in the room, so we can time to ask them all the questions. No matter where you work, maybe working, see right? Once. Okay. So we have two immediate Oscar, and she is policy and community development and you are a naturalization coordinator. Wonderful. So we have her two stuff is Miss Sarah. She's with the Harris County Public Library. They're also here as well, giving our red cards, so make sure you check that out as well. Then next to her is Michael Swahili. He is an attorney. He has a private practice, but he also works at the Texas Southern University Earl Hall Institute, focusing on immigration. And then last but not least, we have my sister on the end, Ms. Josephine Boy, and she is with Baker Ripley. She focuses on immigration as well. So let's give it up just a little bit for our all right, so I'm going to kick it off and the discussion to our community. If you can tell us a little bit more about what needs to be your rights, what does that entail? Kind of give us a little bit of information about some of the resources that might be available in your rights.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting us. Extension of the public. Fine. Purchase, rent. Furthermore, if they come to this work, you pay out that your our personnel what the national if not you don't have to give high school and or passport make sure that response is in your right home. And these are things that are in what eyes you can do it right. That's it. Right home.
Thank you. I think that is very important. No longer rights, because I would imagine that people who are in a situation are very panicked or scared, they don't know what to do. So I think a takeaway that I could from that is having a car handy, so that if anything happens, at least you can show that you can silent, you can talk to an attorney. Have you seen any cases personally in your own practice where people have experience, people with reputation, and you should know your rights and that?
That's my practice. Reputation rights are out of the right. And then having that.
Very helpful. So we can look into this one. Next, over to Josephine, who is the director of the mission. Baker Ripley. And if you could give us an idea of what are some of the naturalization resources that we have here in the city, any experiences that you have with people who have tried to get naturalized, or those issues that they should look out for?
Yes, so this was for those who are interested in naturalization. I'm so excited that Australia is here on the representing the counties. The county has a full initiative with regards to that. So I don't see that the thing that they're doing. But there are some organizations here in town that are working towards this outcome. And if we at Baker Ripley have ADR citizenship workshops with the civil, there are a lot of years. Every single a few months to take off, but there are 8 things that we do, and we have up to 75 people that we can take. It's we'll have 30 people and so there really is this desire for our residents to be able to do this work. So we have things like that. So we can be able to get your naturalization application done before we're ready. I think some people don't know that that exists because the money is something that that's about doing this. Going through this process, but should be able to pass it. Also, there are lots of organizations like ours, like Justice for All, like her, the Gossip Procedure Representation Project, like the charities, I could put on a long list of organizations that them to be your direct representative. to actually walk with the entire process for kids. And it's a Saturday event, we're helping you that day, and then you are representing yourself and educating. But if you have someone with us to be able to do for representation, we'll actually do the entire start, the entire process. So all of those resources are there. It's really good to be kind of back up this kind of talking about naturalization, but in order to be able I can just get to the residents in the journey. And a lot of people, that is the biggest to be able to get to their residents. So we, as a lot of organizations, are just saying to a lot of things to be able to make sure violence against for those who have outside of justice. But it's for men and children that nature. So there's something that we're able to do as well. Also, just as here, once that the series on this field, the gospel is very much the University of Houston. Sometimes it's very long, get on students for individuals who are seeking different types of representation. So it really is just not about resources. We're not seeing, I think, especially specifically talking about I think a lot of applicants are aware of resources. Because I know this because over and I will with that. Right? Is an applicants, and so it is really needed to kind of talk about this information because I also think we are slightly not what people to know about these resources. Because I feel like it's taking money out of their pockets, right? And I think that what is we're not trying to take money out of people's pockets. I think there's enough representation for everyone. Really kind of your own resources.
I have a little educational resource which I was talking about in the city, and I myself the one about some of the people you just said in terms of we have knowledge. I'm part of the ILRC as well, so I do that because I always hear in different churches, oh, the fee, or turn the fee. So it's good to know that they can refer to that. Another question I have is how do you almost spread the word to community psychic communities or other communities to let them know that they, that you all are with this kind of science, whether it's president, organization, they have the kind of information out there, how can you find the information?
So what we do have the evidence that we have, especially with the websites that have the information speaking of the community centers around that are able to provide that information. But I would say I think there's a place where we can do better to be able to specifically help applicants and being able to do a good job in marketing these resources to certain groups. Other groups aren't able to do it as much. So I think that's a place it's like, okay, all of the resources and all of the action. And I feel that all of these different places, all of the information, all of the ways to be different, churches, being relations that we could having ways for many outside of the box and thinking about how this might be a way that's not what we do in the other programs. So yes, we are peaceful organizations, right? I think it's great. But there are some resources to be able to get to these issues. How those things there's the groups services that is able to do what they actually being able to pay and do what we need. And so what we have it's not to that. They're actually just actually they change the rules so that you are able to who are just up to 30% of the bottom line. Which we know so I think there are new resources and
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And so as we're still talking about resources, pass it over to Sarah. She is with the Harris County Public Library System, and we are doing enhanced library cards. And so if you can tell us what is an enhanced library card, we sure it's free, it's government, but what is the difference between that and the
So actually, technically, it's so the official definition is an enhanced library card. So it is a 3 years library card. It's like a regular ones. But the difference here is that it includes the library card on the back in the barcode, so you can scan it. But it has a photograph. It has your address, your date of birth, your gender marker. It has all of those things. So in that sense, legally, technically, it can be used as a supplementary form of identity. Now we can speak to someone not accepted. But that is, it is technically a library.
And it is
it is at the end of the day, it is a library card. It is a library card. The difference is that it does have your photo and address and birth and gender on it. So some places may take it because so there's actually but the process to get it, so like with the passport, where you provide certain identity and written out, and it works the same as the lines. So there's a link also so because of all that, technically it's so it can be used to make further.
So what I hear is you are in the process to actually get this card that you similar to this identity before you put that card. And then that could also to further steps prior to get additional application if that entity accepts. Good to know. And so could you tell us a little bit more about what U.S. Public Library in terms of other resources that they have, as well as it relates to literacy program and other things that might be done.
So real fast, just to let you know, the same veins for the library card, which of course is check off function for the library card. We also do have so that's another service that Naturalization takes advantage of. And as far as educational resources, we offer free ESL classes as well as citizenship preparation classes. So classes that will all of them.
Baker Ripley will also be sharing that information out with them the posted on that piece. Okay, great. So now that I just pass it over to Oscar, tell us a little bit more about some resources for those who have green cards, those who gain citizenship as well. So we can talk us a little bit about that. Again, Oscar is with the Harris County, the community, housing and community development.
Now, and that's because there's so much but we were very close to Baker Ripley first. To provide legal representation, well, not people, but for us, it's very important and we'll have to understand. They have complicated for no each other. I think that worked on a lot of actually and there was also a very hard So for us, it's very important that so if you go to the library, you will find all the contacts and names you can have access to all of the workshops that are happening.
This is so much fun. And I'm curious too, like, do you see a lot of people who are grateful for client language who are in the industry? In terms of say, not a lot of people that can they be taken advantage of that or just so we can put the word out.
Well, actually, was a year that if it was first for campus and next year, but
Thank you for that. That is nice. That wasn't really happening. Step yet. My dad's one of those. He's being here for a woman. So I think I need to go ahead and get citizen. Totally. And it's just, I mean, it didn't take me long to become a citizen. I think sometimes it's often a misconception. I have a great question, right? And I'm settled and everything else, but then like things may happen and you might go in a situation that you didn't think of, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, because you don't have citizenship. It's not citizenship. I love that you're saying like, just continue to keep, wanting to push forward and become a citizen, because truthfully there is more protection as a citizen, green card holder, any other kind of status in the US. So I definitely would want to understand that. I have a question, and I think we can pass it back to Mr. Smith. For those who are immigrants or live out of dual citizenship, could you talk a little bit more about if there's any issues that you have seen for those who have traveled or are traveling, especially in these times now with different executive orders and those who carry citizenship in another country, those happening Australia, whatever. You can also be as how do they navigate
I haven't seen this.
so really what's actually so cool. This is something that a lot of people talk about. And I think that this is just in addition to what this is, I think we have to make sure to talk about what's actually really helpful. I think it's also very important to be able to consult with the teachers to be able to verify that it's true. So I think some of the things that would work on the ones that they were saying that travel and say, what's the time I take 500. So let's say I travel with them there, and possibly Nigeria, possibly they will say that would be a problem. I might not be able to enter back to the United States. So if people were talking, they were getting very nervous about this good travel and really this that. That's actually not going to be an issue as long as you have a US passport, right? And you are able to present that shouldn't be an issue. But that was something that was being said on the WhatsApp streets. And then also it's WhatsApp as well. And maybe it's another reason as to why naturalization is so important. Because if you're a public husband, and also who's running for national in the United States, who are being very good to see whether or not they do it, it is not a that's something they have something that you could even have a secondary inspection where they could not have time to be present to be able to prevent your individual. So there are so many rules and especially as a public husband, which is why if you're eligible to naturalize, you do it current education, you only have to do it now. Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're trying to do it.
Pointing out the WhatsApp streets and things involved. There's some part of the WhatsApp streets, if you're in videos, went to the airport, they go on the plane, stop, this, that, and all this. So thank you for addressing that. When you go to the Q&A section, I do have a question. Don't speak for now, but we're in times where there is a lot of fear to just go to a basic necessities from the grocery store and have you, even if it was extreme, certain places will be there. Some of the different cultural grocery stores and, places of worship and all of different things. So I just kind of want to know, you guys get a piece of advice for those who, might be in the environments and other people who see that message and stay home and don't go there and don't live their life. What is it? What piece of advice that you give, this is kind of now and in terms of just kind of how to move things around?
Yeah.
So, even if my brain is instead of just eating food, is like, okay, look, like, what exactly do you need? And this is exactly what you involved. Even, comfortable to need us to back that middle as much as possible can to connect you to those sources. Yes, workshops, just general information.
I would just being
So I think that I think in addition to that, I would say it's very important to be able to meet with the immigration attorney as possible. And the reason why I say immigration attorney is because all attorneys do not specialize in immigration. It's kind of like how you have a cardiologist, and you have a brain, like you don't go to your cardiologist with brain issues, right? And so perhaps that a great defense attorney doesn't know a lot about immigration, might not tell you that. So go to someone that actually specializes in immigration, be able to see what your options are. Because in those moments, you're going to want to know that we have immigration. So if you are a person to know that children are around your brain, to know that if you are for status, to know, hey, I should make sure that I'm avoiding interactions with police in the first place by making sure I'm not committing any crimes and I'm not even committing any traffic offenses that can get over in the first place, right? I want to be able to have that information. So I think being able to make someone consultation, I think that's really important. I know it's difficult to have consultations because either the price of the consultation or by the nonprofits with full. But I encourage them, even if nonprofits are absolutely great for someone literally, but if you are able to get the nonprofit to be able to save the money to be able to go to a private attorney that is good, have a list of good, trusted attorneys, I think it's worth it to be able to make sure that you have brought care in that situation. You have your status, the status of the provide should be the right.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's do it for our panelists. Like this question, are there any questions that anyone may have for our experts here? It's time to ask. So, do you have any questions?
I couldn't hear, but there was a question for civil advice on the library card. You held up a white paper, and I thought you said, is that equivalent to the government? Like this?
Oh, okay. So her question is just an explanation on how to get that enhanced library card. And just for clarification, it is a government issue ID, but it's local. It's not state. So it just depends on the entity that would accept that local ID. They might be able to take that everywhere that you, but it is some form of identification when you are walking around and they ask you, who are you? There's a picture, your name, your gender, and all the things. So, Sarah, you can expand a little bit more on what I've said, and maybe I'll correct me if I'm not.
Just to give a little more clarification. I guess I would call it like legally as identification or was professional because even locally, even though when you come to it out, checking your box, things like that. We can't vouch for this thing. Now is it better than not having it? It could be. But yeah, basically we can't be confident about it. We kind of shy away with all image. So as far as how to get it, so we do have 26 full service library locations throughout this county. Inside the loop, between the Beltway and outside. So there's many ways to get it. We also do pop-up events things like this where we actually make partners. But basically, I'm going to have these FAQ sheets with further instructions on how to what the documents that you need. And I can give it to y'all after this panel, and also we have our table over there. But pretty much what you need to do is, if you're interested, get that paperwork over there after this. And there's the types of identity that you need in order to get this library card is all on here. Pretty much, if you have a foreign voter ID card that you don't on it, you have your foreign passport, and even if it hasn't, even if it's expired, you can still take it if it's not expired. So all the details are on here about that, and then of course, proof of residence. That's something like a bill with your current address on it and your phone bill, like whatever. And all you have to do is take those forms of identification, your proof of address, to one of our 26 library locations, and you can get your card.
That's another follow-up question, just for some clarity. You mentioned that there may be different entities that may or may not accept. In your experience, has there been anyone that have accepted? And I know you also mentioned like this library card could also hope for those to get the other pieces of identification. Is there anything there that you have known from other pieces of identification that they can get using this card?
So I asked my division director. So the answer that she gave me is basically we don't have in writing any, and that includes the county sheriff's office. We do not have it in anyone that anyone accepts. It's very touch and go. With everything going on right now, it really does just kind of get what happens with all at one time. I was, yeah, I mean, I guess I got
I definitely understand, but thank you for sharing it. So just so you all know, you get it, take the chance on trying to get other pieces of information. It may or may not work, but it's best to have something. So even if still try to go and get that or still spread the word out so people can be acknowledged and have some form of ID in terms of identification of who you are. So is there another question that we have? Yes, ma'am.
Now, I want to find out. Right now, the TSA, the people announced that we need to get a real ID, right? By the real ID, right? If we go on to this stuff. Now, if you take someone who has a lot of organization, social, but if we take away from that comes to have a person, each state has to offer it.
I'm gonna go ask the attorney on that. So her question is about travel, and in the sense like by May 25th, the TSA to her, you said the TSA said that they need to open an ID.
It's a real idea.
The real ID by May 25th. So the person is in transit of getting their social security card and and you have a work authorization. Is your status like what is your status? Like, what you done with that? That's not consistent.
As far as the like, trying to think of the travel,
I don't want to do it.
first contact. If I show up with their contact, valid for my need. Thank you.
Okay, so he said that he's not sure about like, the other things, but in terms of the real ID, like we will still have to have a valid ID for the work authorization or your passport, but the work authorization is
And that's gonna be able to valid.
So basically, they're not sure the work authorization will allow for you to come in and out of the country.
Domestically.
Oh, inside of the country. Okay, so within the United States,
Just the US.
if you can travel within the United States and you have a work authorization, possibly, even though it hasn't been approved yet, Social Security hasn't been approved yet, they're still waiting that piece, but you're okay to still travel within the United States.
So I was double checking because I don't want to give any correct information. That's why I was on my phone. I wasn't just texting or something. So some of the yes, they do have employment authorization card as one of the accepted forms of ID. However, it is possible to have a work permit but not have current immigration status in the United States, right? So not everyone has a work permit. You have a permit that's not expired, but your status is not in both departments have it. If that is the case, I would not suggest travel really like on a plane to the United States. I think it could be in any country would be a little tricky. However, if you do have the work permit and you do have some valid of immigration status, whether that be you're on a student visa, right, or DACA, or something like that, you might not have a work permit if you have a student visa. I digress, but I'm just talking about have some sort of status, if you do have that work permit, I think you should be okay. One of the things that they are looking at with the Real ID Act, if you've got a new like Texas ID, there's right with a little star on it, that's the one that indicates that it is real ID. So if you do have all this, you have your license for a travel with that. I will say if you have a work permit, you should be able to get your license. And so with that, then be able to just flash your license and then they know very quickly that he needs Real ID fine. But I do suggest in terms of traveling within the United States, if you don't have status, I think you should be careful That's the case, and then especially if you don't have status, traveling south, but towards the Mexico border, you don't want to do that. That goes back to my question. I understand about I really like it. That's clear. So if somebody talking to them, and according to the state of getting the law accreditation and the social and the citizen having status. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's what I want. Okay, yeah, no. So if you are, as long as, and I'll say this kind of come out, as long as you have your work permit and you have some form of status, then yes. Sure. What is that? What is that? So let me give you an example of what it's not. Let's say I have asylum, or I'm applying for asylum, and then they deny my case, but my work permit is still technically, it's still going. At that moment, I don't have status because my case is denied. That is one example. Not a lot of examples like that. There are examples like that. But for most people who have a work permit, probably have some form of status in the United States. I hear this in general, not specifically to someone. Really, what they're saying is that as long as you have some documentation and avoid good. And I'm sorry to be a lawyer about this. I'm so sorry. It depends. So it depends. So it is possible. And I'll give another example. Let's say I have my spouse is a U.S. citizen, and my spouse petitioning me to be able to stay in the United States. So I'm in process. But I might not necessarily have documentation. I might not have immigration status at the moment. It's possible. So let's say I enter the United States without documentation. I meet someone, I fall in love with them, and then they're now petitioning for me. Okay, during this petition process, until they approve me, I actually don't have status in the United States. But while there, it's possible though to be able to have a work permit during that process, even though you don't have immigration status. I promise I'm not trying to be confusing, but for it can be. So the answer is a lot of times that's one thing. It's very important to be able to speak with an attorney because there are smaller things that will make it then say actually this is no, and this person is yes. So yes, for a lot of people, if they have a work permit, they should be okay because they have immigration status. But I don't want people to think because I have a work permit, it means I have immigration status. That might not necessarily be the case. That help? Yes.
Thank you for listening and just for that. So I hope you got the answer or understanding of it. Great.
We can talk about this.
Okay. Yes, so.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's Costa or Josephine again to answer, but what is the lowest amount that we can reduce if we don't have enough money for the N400, which is the application for citizenship? What is the least that someone can afford to pay, or what is the threshold to meet the requirements to get either a waiver or reduced rate? For the reduced rate, it's pretty hard to pay $80. I don't think it's on. Nope.
Microphone.
You need to get closer to it.
The bills fee is $380. But you might be able to do the application for free. So the lowest amount is not my correct. Yes.
These are rather than get created or it could be free. So, okay.
That's a big difference.
Any other questions before we round up this panel? Okay. Well, can we give it up again for our candidates who have next part? Your rights, immigration, and all the things. And now, at this moment, I would like to bring up Harris County Precinct 4 to give some treats to our panelists. And then also have a presentation as well from the Commissioner Leslie.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We want to recognize AfroPac for having this workshop here today, because it's very, very important that all of our communities and Precinct 4 has this information. So right to honor you guys for having this.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Azab, you're closer. Oh, okay. Hey, Azab, can you take a good picture of us? Yes, we can take a picture. And I have a bag. But hold your bag. Hold your bag. Sorry. What are you talking about? And Sabbath. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And just want to let you know, just be on the lookout. Get our newsletter. We're going to probably be having more of these Know Your Rights events, combined with organizations like this and other organizations. So be on the lookout. You can come get one of my business cards. Would like to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you to Commissioner Creyole office. I'm going to pass it on back to my friend. Rounding up another remark.
We're still having another panel. So we're going to continue talking about naturalization and Black immigrants in the next panel in the next couple of minutes. So I wanted to thank everyone, Astra, Sarah, Michelle, and Josephine from the state, of the panel for being here. Of course, President Guerrero's office and Harris County Support. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to continue in the next 10 minutes to the next panel, which is Black immigrants and civil rights and inclusion and belonging, and that's happening in the next 5 minutes. Thank you so much. But no, don't go anywhere. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We are about to start the next panel. And so the next panel is going to be Black Immigrant Voices on Rights and Belonging. A lot has happened in the last few weeks. There's been a lot of attacks, especially on immigrants. And so this discussion is meant to discuss the Black immigrant experience. A lot of people don't know, or at least immigration generally, when we talk about it, it's not talked from the lenses of African or Black immigrants. And so today we're here to discuss that and get a sense of our advocacy and reflect the intersection of civil rights and immigration. We have some great speakers. Happy to see again. Josephine is again talking with us about her work with Black immigrants specifically. We also have Oluchi, and of course, Gail is going to moderate and introduce the panel a little bit better. And then we also have Joy Green for All Immigrants. And so we have these great people talking about some of the issues that are pressing right now, especially with what is going on with immigration and all of the issues surrounding it. So thank you so much. I'm going to give you the floor. Thanks.
Thank you, Nika. Jennifer Nika. Put this on. Okay, my name is Plum. Ogles, and I am your wonderful moderator for the next panel. So I have a familiar face with us, which is Ms. Josephine. She is the Director of Immigration for Baker Ripley. Next to her, we have Mr. Oluchi Oyoga, and he is the co-founder of BLMP. He'll tell us a little bit more about that. And then last but not least, and last, is Joy Green. She's the director, executive director for Justice for All Immigrants, and they also have a table as well, so that you can go and check it out as well. So without further ado, I'm going to kick off the panel because I know we are pressed for time and we do have to be done by 4. So I want to make sure that I get the information to you all, and I also have time for y'all to ask questions to our experts. So first up is Ms. Joy Green. I want to know 2 things. Okay. First thing is, what inspired you to get involved in immigration work? And then we'll move on to kind of like that burning up. But let's start off first with what inspired you to get into immigration?
Okay. I am an immigration attorney for over 14 years, and anything in particular that inspired me necessarily. The descendant of slaves lots of these countries come from Africa, obviously. And for me, growing up as a child, a little bit isolated, so did not have much exposure to different countries, but I was always fascinated with the world outside of the United States. So that certainly was one of the inspirations. But the other inspiration is I love Black people. And I also love African Americans. And so for me, when I was going through law school, there were opportunities to intern with immigration legal services. And somebody said, you got to get into immigration law. It's a hot topic. And I didn't know anybody, right? So then I said, okay, well, I got to get into immigration law. It's a hot topic. And then after that, the rest is history. So that's what I've been doing for 14 years. I love the work that I do, that I get to work for and get to work.
Thank you so much. So we didn't hear that. She loves immigration law. It's her baby, obviously, because she been doing it for 14 years. So she has some knowledge on that. So next up, we're going to call on Mr. Oguchi to please, tell us a little bit about the OMP, the work that you all are doing, and also tell us about the Black LGBTQ and work that y'all are doing there as well.
Hey, y'all, my name is Alief. I use a pronoun, but it's fine. So I am the co-founder and co-director of the Migrant Project. Contrary to popular, I'm actually not a so I was born in Minnesota. My parents were both Nigerian, so I'm a child of immigrants. And for me, it was important to grow up thinking that there were other queer or trans, gay, lesbian, Africans, specifically Nigerian. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like, okay, if I'm not gay, then I can be Nigerian. If I'm not, if I am gay, then I can be. And I remember when chatting about people who chatted for a very long time. And like growing up, unlike a lot of the first generation children that I know, it was really important for my parents to teach me the culture. And I was very, very like, if you know me, you know that I love Nigeria down, I love my culture, I love my tribe. And so it was really hard for me because I thought I didn't know. That's until I found organizing. So I started organizing. At that time, it was within the movement, Black Lives, the Black Lives. And I was doing a lot of what relationships was organizing. But I knew that there was a piece of myself that was missing from everybody doing. While I was organizing against somebody, it was the first African group of study person. They were also doing the organizing work. And then I met my first people person. And I realized that I could create a space for other people in which all of their needs are covered. So that's what the Black LGBTQ Project is. It's a labor of love for all the people that thought that their cultural identity could live within their personality, as far as their sexuality or sexual orientation. And so this was actually during Trump's first presidency, was founded in sexual orientation. And we knew that we wanted to make a change on a national level, but we also knew that local work was very important. So we came up with an organization that kind of does everything at once, unfortunately, which means that we're always working. And so we do a lot of national advocacy and to immigration, to rights, and Black motivation, but we also have local hubs because we knew that the one thing that we needed is to know that there are that's what we're doing. And so we have local chapters or local hubs in the United States. We have one here in Houston, shout out to the Houston crew, local team. And that's when we do our local university hub. And so the question around what's going on as far as the sphere, 2 days ago, they just updated the talking. But the narrative around trans rights or gender affirming care, or whatever you want to call it, the right did a very good job of saying, this is why we should block this, because children don't know. They're not making choices for themselves. Children can't make the choice to transition. Children can't, it's all about the kids. But what HB 3399 actually states is that nobody, regardless of the age, can access gender and identity. So that means that it was never about kids. It was never about protecting children. It was always about limiting autonomy and the choices that they can make. But the other thing that that does is it actually harms people that are not transgender. And do you know, like, men, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you because you're bald, not because I think that you need to have hair transplant. But men who get hair transplant, that is gender affirming care. When women go and get breast reductions or breast enhancement surgery, that is gender affirming care. And so we know that just like when they go for one immigrant community, they're going for all of us, when they go for one sexual orientation, gender identity, we know that it's actually happening. And so that's what we are.
Thank you, Oluchi, for definitely giving us education experience what's going on. So last but not least, pass it over to Josephine. And if you can tell us a little bit your perspective of working with the African immigrant community, especially, you gave the director of immigration at Baker Ripley. Kind of tell us what you've been seeing, hearing, what's happening.
Yeah, so I think there's so much that's happening in the community right now. And again, my lens is typically from a nonprofit lens. And I think in the nonprofit sector, we just don't see a lot of African immigrants. We just don't. You might say the same thing with your work as well. So I think that one of the things, and again, I have talked about this multiple times, about the importance of being able, and I've said this even in the last video as well, to be able to get that information out there. Because I think one of the things, a lot of the trends, if you will, that we're seeing with a lot of people in the African community, is you have a lot of people who came to the United States, are going to like students or a visitor's visa. You have people who then they're able to fall in love and meet spouses and things of that nature. You have people who come to the United States and they school, and so then they go to school for an employment rep, and that's the way they're able to get their residency. But then you have some people who kind of are in limbo, right? And so they don't necessarily fall in love with someone, they don't necessarily have a job that's willing to sponsor them. And so they are now without status. They're wondering what to do. And then there is sometimes a temptation to then get to maybe a fake marriage. And to be able, because that really then seems to be the only way. Some of the tools that we employ, like especially immigrant juvenile status and in some ways asylum, don't work as well for Africans. And it almost seems like it was made for other people, and so you don't fit as easily into those categories. And so a lot of the tools that you teach with kids at employ, I think sometimes when you're talking to them, sometimes an African immigrant, they're just crossed off a bunch of things really quickly, and then what can be done. So I think that I always tell people that if the continent of Africa is below the state of Texas, that we've been had a wall, that there wouldn't be nonprofit organizations, that people would just be like, no one cares, and just right. And so I think that dealing also with racism within immigrant art is a really big thing as well. And it's an uncomfortable conversation because immigrants are a vulnerable population, but within that vulnerable population, just like Lucia was talking about, there are all these other identities, and there's the intersectionality that is not necessarily useful. So there's a lot of things that are going on. And I think another really quick thing in terms of trends, I think a lot of times Africans are right? And so being the model immigrants, it's like, oh, go to school, do something with you guys. And yes, we do those things, but not everybody does, one. And two, just because we do those things, it doesn't mean that we don't need assistance. We don't need, so there are a lot of things.
Thank you for sharing the perspective on that, especially in the immigrant community. And what I also hear is just like the lack of awareness of resources that can support them, no matter what type of work you're doing or how you got here, but just knowing of resources. And so I hear that from what you're saying from perspectives as well. So I want to move back to Ms. Joy Reed. And I know I mentioned earlier that we talked about birthright citizenship, because I know that that has been a thing that we have heard, and it's in a new cycle about that as well. So my question to you is, one, if you could tell us a little bit more about like birthright citizenship or deal, as it ended, as it not, is it still in force, is it not? And just kind of tell us a little bit more about that, so we just have some clarity on that, especially for me. That's person that was born here. I just want to know my rights.
Thank you. Yeah, so birthright citizenship in the US has a long history in the United States. It started at the 14th Amendment, which prior to the 14th Amendment, Black people were not acknowledged as human beings in this country. We were property, right? So the 14th Amendment reversed that and said, hey, if you're born in the United States, on this land, you are a United States citizen. That has been the law since 1868, 3 years after the end of slavery. Our current president says that should not be the case. We need to take away birthright citizenship, meaning anybody who has a child in the United States who's not born to a U.S. citizen parent should not be a U.S. citizen, contrary to the Constitution, contrary to the 14th Amendment. Obviously, this is being played out in court. I don't personally think it's going to survive, but that doesn't mean that the administration is not going to stop trying. But if you think about the history of this law and why it was implemented, it was because of Black people. We were not human beings in this country. We were not citizens. We weren't anything but slaves in this country prior to that. So the fact that it's coming back into conversation and saying like, hey, let's give birthrights. We're not going to have birthright citizenship, but we're going to protect the white South Africans who want to seek asylum in this country. They need special protection, right? Like, so when you think about the contrast between those two things. So yeah, right now, children who are born are still U.S. citizens, but certainly I think it's going to be a battle. I don't know when the end of this battle is going to take place, but the history of it is rooted in racism. A point blank period. There's no way to beat around the bush. I mean, even though the current president is has married immigrant women, and I believe his mom was born in a foreign country, and based on his own logic, he should not be a U.S. citizen, but he doesn't care about people who look like him. He cares about everybody else who looks like us. And it's a brown. But yeah, right now it's still being contested. Yes, if you have a child born here, they're still a U.S. citizen. I love doing these cases. I love proving that someone is a U.S. citizen. Sometimes we have clients who are born abroad in a different country, but the mom is a U.S. citizen and the child grows up in the United States. One time I had a woman who had been here for 35 years of her life, thinking she was undocumented because she was born in a different country. But I was like, but your mom's a U.S. citizen, your grandparents are U.S. citizen. I was like, girl, we just got to prove it. So yeah, birthright citizenship and just citizenship in general is something I would fight to the tooth and nail for, because it's rooted in the history of my ancestors in this country, and it impacts all of us. Certainly impacts all of us. Because if you take away, think about it, if you take away birthright citizenship, right? What else are you taking? The right to vote, right? Think about that. Those children 18 years from now won't have a right to vote. Who does that benefit? I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I wanted to also look something what you said, because even if it doesn't pass, the audacity that this is a conversation about, if it does pass, then if someone is born here and their parents are not born here, they're a citizen, right? Because they're not citizens of the country that their parents are from. They weren't born there, they're not citizens here. So then you have just a bunch of stateless people that don't actually have to reach anywhere else. And I think about that as it pertains to the immigration part, but also in the trans conversation as well. It is very common that there's a conversation about if trans people should be eradicated from society. Meaning genocide of trans people. But that is a conversation that is happening on the right. So I think it's important for us to remember, even if we're like, oh, this is ridiculous, it's not going to happen. It's about testing the waters around where are people at in this conversation, and can we actually push forward now, or do we need to build more power and push forward revoking birthright citizenship in 2028 or 2032 or 2026? And so it's really important that even though we're like, okay, this is never going to happen, we're still clocking that it's being talked about in this meeting.
Thank you for sharing that, Joanne. I think that that's important to kind of bring the audacity of challenging the amendments that, and the process of the amendments as well, right? I mean, we saw, you know, the challenge of laws and precedents as well with challenging, and one swoop was overturned. And you look at Roe v. Wade, and that is an example of a challenge where, you know, it was pushed to see, can we do this? And then it was done, right? So when we talk about birthright citizenship, that is a concern of it being challenged and, you know, putting faith in our courts and those who understand justice and understand precedents, and that's why it's important to vote. Because these are people that we vote for to speak on our behalf, to judge on our behalf as well. So I wanted to move forward with many people to share this stuff. All right, no problem. And so just kind of moving forward so that we can get to Q&A. I have another question, and that is in regards to just kind of this intersection, which I think everybody here has talked about, is how do we bridge the gap between Black migrants, African Americans in general, so that they as in both groups know that immigration is our issue as a Black community collectively, right? It's not just for another group or another cultural thing, but, you know, understanding that as we're talking about immigration and talking about migrants, that it's a Black issue as well. How do we begin to bridge that gap and get both sides to like talk about it as well, advocate education, about, you know, making sure that like we are not just thinking about now, but we're talking about 2022. How do we advocate? How do we, you know, be more proactive in this? So anyway.
It's such an easy question. But I think that it's such an important question because I think that we are so wrong, viewed ourselves differently. And so I love the fact that we on this panel because I too sing and then Joy's on this panel because I think a lot of times, especially Joy's perspective is not heard. We need a lot of these different conversations. Some people come from their own immigrant experience or their parents' immigrant experience. So I think it's really great for this conversation. I think we have bought into the lie that has been told about us from other people. So in terms of, I think Africans have bought into the lie that Black people from the United States are somehow less than. And I think in some ways that African Americans who are descendants of slaves who bought into the lie that Africans are less than. So we're believing what is said about each other, and we don't want to have anything to do with each other. And so when it comes time to now advocate, we don't see ourselves as one, we see ourselves as being separate. So I think we eradicate that, right? It's just like, you know, we're on the same brain. We are the same people. We are literally have the same life. But we need to look at that as a community, one, just because we are the same. But then also, in terms of people, when we start talking about people and oppressed people, truly, it's a quote that's used often, but justice anywhere is referred to justice everywhere. And it really, really is true. So anytime you are seeing injustice, you should be able to put that and say that it's offer. Because if anything, really you should care because of those specific people. If anything, it's coming to you. Right? It's just a matter of time. Which is why it's so disheartening to see some of what's happening currently, because I think there's a lot of that's not new. So I think one of the biggest ways to be able to really embrace this issue is for us to be able to look at each other and say that we are the same and that we are fighting for the rights of Black people all across the world.
Yeah, I can agree. Yes, all to all of that. One of the things I always say is that Black people have a collective experience of marginalization, right? When I think about Black immigrants and folks that are here post-imperialism, right, we see that folks that are the economic disparity, right? My parents were immigrant after the Biafra was, and then after the Biafra was, people 20 naira, and they were like, actually, that's the thing that you get. You're going to have is the vote. And so, when they talk about forced migration, I think that it's easy for Black American people or folks who are to understand that, specifically when it comes to like most major cities, institutional interest, right? So when you think about like Richard State 59 and 55 and whatever, what that did is actually that it decimated all Black neighborhoods. So this is the same in Houston, it's the same in Minneapolis, in Chicago, in which they put in an interstate or the national highway, yet they displaced thousands, hundreds of thousands of Black people, and they were forced to find with their support, right? That's in a smaller way the same as Black immigrant folks who are fleeing their homeland, not because they want to. Who wants to go from Africa, which is tropical, which has cheese and food that's amazing, to Minnesota, which is what my parents changed, right? That is not a decision based out of choice, it's a decision based on necessity. And so when we think about what is forced migration for Black people in general, we understand that white supremacy is what is taking away our agency to move reasonable. Because migration is where people migrate, move, integrate into other cultures, but what we're talking about is the forcible decision to have to migrate because of your own safety or your own autonomy, right? The other thing is utilizing people like you, Josephine, who were born of immigrant parents or were even born outside of the age of 1 or 2 years old, but grew up in the United States, right? I call myself a 1.5 generation because for lack of better terms, when people saw me on the street, they would see a Black American person. A lot of Nigerians still see me as a Black American person. Yet I have experience of recent migration coming to the country. And also my peers are Black American folks who are descendants of slaves. My education is American education. And so because of the culture that I grew up with, I think people utilize to bridge that gap from Black immigrant folks and folks who are actually existing.
Thank you, Josephine, and you too.
I would just add from the perspective of someone born in the US, descendant of slaves, I acknowledge and we see that there's this division, right, between how African Americans are raised and how people who are coming from the continent and their background. A lot of this, of course, is very intentional, right? So if you're stolen from Africa, you're stolen, your language is stolen, your customs are stolen, your hairstyles are stolen, everything about your ancestry is stolen from you. And you're fed these lies your entire life. Yeah, there is definitely a division. But I do think in the past, I'd say maybe 10 to 15 years, as more people have had access to like DNA testing, I do see more African Americans are starting to have more pride and like, I'm 30% Nigerian. I can say this. I'm 30% Nigerian. I haven't been yet, but I'm 30% Nigerian. But just like having this exposure, but like, you don't even have to do a DNA test. You don't have to go to the continent. You can literally go to any neighborhood in Houston and meet people and talk to people. But just being able to like bridge and say like, hey, we're from the same blood. We're from the same tribe. I don't know much about my tribe, but I know we're from the same tribe. A lot of our cousins are still the same. It was so interesting. This past year, I took my first trip to the continent, North Africa, for the first time. And I know, it was so exciting. I loved it. I had so much fun. But everywhere I went, I was so surprised that people would say to me, welcome home. And I was like, welcome home? I've never been here before. They said, we don't care, welcome home. This is where your people are from. This is where you're from. We don't know what tribe you are, but you look like you're this tribe. And then I would see people, the faces of people, and I say, oh my gosh, that looks like my cousin. That's my cousin. My cousin, I took selfies with people and sent them home to my family and be like, this guy looks just like Cousin Phil. And everybody say, yeah, we all look alike. And so just having that connection to saying like, when you know where you come from, you have a better identity, sure. That's the advantage to being an immigrant in this country. You have an identity, you know where you come from, versus being a descendant of slaves. You pull your profile, it's like, oh man, that's 10 country profile. It's like, which group am I part of? I don't know. But just even knowing a little bit gives you a better identity of who you are and who you're from. And then you get a better connection with other people in the diaspora. And I do think that helps to just bridge the gap. If more people know where they come from, you'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate why your grandmother does things a certain way. You'll appreciate why wear your hair a certain way. You'll appreciate why you dress a certain way, why you want to wear this perfume or something like that, you know? So to me, that's kind of been just to know more about where
I love it. I love that through all events here is in terms of how to we bridge that gap is an individual effort, but then also a collective effort as well. I think also too, just to kind of make my 2 cents to it, is seeing more collaboration with like Black immigrant, Black migrant type organizations with our traditional African American organizations, right? You have the NAACP, you have the you have all of these different organizations that make up a team up with a Justice for All immigrants, they team up with Baker Ripley, they team up to do a Know Your Rights or do an immigrant workshop or citizenship or you get to see that bridge actually happen again. Both sides are informed about what they do, right? How we support each other on different scales and on different levels. So I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in that. As well as we talk about, just the importance of, civic institutions, civic organization, immigrant organizations as well, the things that you are doing on this panel, and I'm sure you have connections and networks to others as well. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor for any Q&A sections that we have. I know we're pressed for time, so I want to make sure that we at least get a couple of questions in before we shut the panel down. So at this moment, I'm going to open the floor up. Is there any questions that you all have for our elite experts on this panel? Anybody? Yes, sir.
What I need a microphone.
You project really well. You're good. You're good.
So I want to ask you about the immigration service department about non-immigrant status, TN or one, etc. You like to about the.
I just want to make sure she knows what to do.
Okay. My question is about the filing process and evidence and advice USCIS approved that single nation agreed to sit. You talk more about that filing process. And then you count that for example,
Yeah, so the process of document gathering really depends on the year the person was born, just because of how citizenship laws have changed throughout the years. So typically I refer to a big old citizenship chart. That's the first thing I go to and say, oh, you were born between this year and this year. It makes a difference if a child was born to married parents versus non-married parents, things like that. But the biggest challenges I've seen is trying to prove that the U.S. citizen parent is a U.S. citizen. So you have to gather so many years of evidence saying, like, hey, my father was here after the age of 14. So getting a 60-year-old dad to pull high school records can be challenging. Things like that. I think that's the biggest hurdle. The other big hurdle that I've seen, unfortunately, is when there's not a good parent-child relationship. And even though we know the child is a U.S. citizen, they have to depend on the parents to get documents to prove that. And if the parent is not willing to cooperate, then unfortunately the child sometimes gets left out. And unfortunately, I've seen that too many times.
You have another question? Thank you for that, John.
I have a question for Josephine. How do you think it could increase our outreach to African and Black communities to talk about immigration? I mean, Africa has been trying, but do you have any other suggestions of how we can work together a little bit better to kind of expose the world and locally about, Black immigrants being here and needing the resources that we all need?
Yeah, no, great question. Again, it's like, let's try to solve the world's problems in this panel. I think being able, one, talked about kind of going to places that they're not going. So I think that we have some tried and true processes that we can use in nonprofit world. For instance, at Baker Ripley, anytime we do a citizenship forum, we are getting on soon. Which is great. I don't think a lot of Africans watch soon, right? Also, so because of that, I think it's like, okay, so is there maybe an equivalent that we could then be able to have it be a part of our typical marketing, right? So for things like that. I also think being able to reach out to people like Luigi, right? Because I think Luigi might have some context in the and vice versa. So then we're able to partner, I think we're able to do things a lot better. Because if I kind of present without Luigi, then I might be, there's going to be certain people that I might be able to reach. In the same way, if you went over to do an event without me, there are certain people you can reach that maybe. So I think when we come together, I think a lot of times, not to kind of get too into the conversations we have, especially amongst Africans, tend to be divided. Tend to be really, really divided, and we like to do things individually. We don't like to partner. And I think it's to start partnering, I think we'll see a lot more into things. So when we are doing things differently, when we start passing up flyers at vertical concepts, I don't know, like what we to do something like that, then also to come back and
Thank you for sharing that. Just touching it. So, as part of my doctoral studies, I'm actually studying engagement in the African diaspora. And so, to your question, we put out a survey, just kind of fill out surveys, kind of see how people feel. To your point, a lot of people felt like the diaspora itself is fragmented. And so, therefore, information is not easily like getting to that community because everybody's doing something, right? Or this community is in a silo kind of position, so they don't have like a person who is willing to kind of be the information gatherer or the convener of my group of these different groups. And so you kind of see people kind of like not sure what they're doing, or you see a lot of disinformation or information or two, like what Joseph said in the last panel, the WhatsApp streets are the one informing everybody. In that sense. And so what I did see though is that a lot of people are looking for this kind of forums, right? Community-led type forums where you can be able to have conversations without feeling like this is like the wrong thing, right? It's a safety space where education is being had with our wonderful experts here, where you can ask questions and feel safe to do that. So I just wanted to point that in because that is a very real time to really affirm what our panelists are saying here about how can we engage more, how can we get the outreach for and things like that. And that's just through, just kind of asking people, what do you want? How do we reach you? What is the best way to get that information to you? So I love the idea of passing out flyers at the Burner concert. I think that is really great. Any other person who has a question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
Actually, what I want to coming together, like it's all about information. It's all about information. And you know what? Some people actually don't say it's like, no, I don't know what's like the kind of shy, like see, like they're clear how they're feeling. And some people are kind of passing by. When they just get a little bit immigrants, you see they're talking about it. Because some of them are doctors. They don't even know who to ask. They don't know who to reach out to. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to pay them. They don't know who to answer. That's not all sorry. So this is a very problem. And organizing short team try to educate people out. They know what's actually going on, how to actually help them. Because just let them know that's what they have to come out. They have to carry on. They have to take it to the next level.
Yes. Thank you for that. Let's give it up for that comment. I agree with you, Sarah. I was something really great as well on that particular comment. Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
Yes, Question, thank you for the question. I asked her, what community agent, she told me, mission was wrong. And went to them, the private, and told me that I need to meet right now. So I have to run, come back here again. To the list. What this lady said, she's allowed. You need to invade her. She needs to know what's going on here. But she don't, she told me no. I'm not going to. We're not going to.
Oh, there's a question. Just a very short question. So are there any online forums like this as well? So again, it was just by chance that I happened to find out that this was happening. But are there any other forums or anywhere we can access information, even if it's just online, virtual? So is there anything like this set up where we can zoom in or something instead?
I guess the question would be for me. With African Public Affairs Committee, we do host sometimes webinars where we inform people on what is going on. Sometimes is specifically on TPS, for example, or other times like we talked today about naturalization, citizenship. So we do offer some of this information online. We do have a website, www.afripac.org. But I am here to answer anybody's question regarding the work that we do. So we try to educate our people on everything that is going on, both in the immigration space and on the legal space in terms of the EO that are coming out, especially right now with this implementation. But we do have a platform. We do have webinars online as well. We just felt that given the moment right now, we needed to be in person and speak with people and have people reach out and get to know like the immigration resources that you have here in Houston. And that's why we lead on to Josephine, Justice Brown, Joy, and some of the other folks that are here, and also the ACLU of Texas, who is on the other side. So as soon as we close up with our panel here, folks are able to still talk to some of the booths, some of the tables that we have on the side. So we have Funding Against Diversity, the Office of New Americans with Hassan Yusuf. We have Houston Public Library on the other side also, and Harris County Public Library, and other organizations that have some of the resources that are here in the city of Houston that are available. So they have tables with materials and information, but I will also leave my email address and contact for any other question. And I'm gonna let Tigrinya wrap it up before I fall.
Can't fall. So just to add to what Becca said too, there are different organizations who are connected with them themselves. So you subscribe to them and get their information as well. If you are connected to your consulate, they also do workshops like this as well, talking about just your passport, and they connect with immigration lawyers as well, so you can get more information direct from them. So there are just different organizations as well that you can connect with online who are doing this work, just to what Becca said. So that's something that I would just say, who was our best friend, but then we here in the room, we can just network with each other and say, hey, I have your number. Here's how I can share this with you, and that can be on the WhatsApp streams. Okay, you want to put that on the WhatsApp stream. Okay. So, anyways, I just want to say, let's give it up for our esteemed panelists here. Really great having them on. If there's one last thing that you'd like to share with our community here, please share. If not, then we'll round it up. In our panel discussion, I'll bring back up Nanda, to kind of close us out, but our panelists, we're good. Okay, so we can round this up and close us out on our panel discussion here and our overall workshop.
Thank you so much, you for doing such a great job moderating this panel. Everybody, please get a round of applause. And be so grateful, asking all the right questions, and I'm so grateful for your help and support in all of these events. Thank you, everybody, for showing up today. As I said and mentioned, we have several tables with information on either naturalization or citizenship resources. Please feel free to recognize your seniors or resources if you need any assistance. A lot of the work that we do is for the community. And so I know I don't have my cards on here, but it's literally my name first, Nika, NNEKA at afripac.org. But feel free to ping me and I'll write it down on a piece of paper if you need any help. A lot of the work that we do is to make sure that our community is civically engaged. So we're not doing only this for naturalization, we also do it when it's time to vote, November, but you know, elections are not only presidential, everything is local. So please be registered if you're eligible to vote, because we need to make sure that, anyway, let's keep it secret. Yes, please feel free to leave on our organization. If you need more information, I am here. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And last but not least, I'm really excited to say thank you to my uncle Kate today. Right there. I would be thinking about this you over here. So thank you for coming today. And thank you so much, everybody. And see you at the next one. Thanks.
You guys, that's when you can go to our try to get my and it's just I don't know if really wants Texas like migrant and there's